advantage of some tax planning strategies now. Uncle Sam could take a big chunk of your hard-earned retirement savings. Learn how you could reduce the taxes on your IRA and 401k with a free retirement tax savings analysis. It's from Boss Retirement Solutions. If you've saved more than $200,000, schedule your free tax strategy session now by calling 801-896-9622. Discover the tax planning strategies that could dramatically reduce your taxes in retirement. Call 801-896-9622. That's 801-896-9622.
Advisory services offered through Boss Retirement Advisors, an SEC-registered investment advisory firm. Insurance products and services offered through Boss Retirement Solutions.
3 days only. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Save thousands on hot tubs and swim spas. It's a major manufacturer's liquidation of hundreds of in-stock spas. Utah State Fair Park. Hot tubs discounted 40 to 80% to the lowest possible price, starting at $29.99. Free professional delivery. Take possession tomorrow, next week, next month, or next season. The Hot Tub and Swim Spa Sale. Utah State Fair Park. Shop over a dozen models of swim spas from 11 feet to over 19 feet. Swim spas offer low-impact exercise, active family fun, unsurpassed relaxation, and installation in one day. The Hot Tub and Swim Spa Sale. Everything must go. Free parking, free admission. You can't afford to miss this. It's a major manufacturer's liquidation of hundreds of in-stock spas.
Friday, noon to 8 p.m. Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m.
The Hot Tub and Swim Spa Sale. Utah State Fair Park. Visit hottubandSwimSpaSale.com.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Sinclair's Dino Pay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Ricky Meese.
No problems on the freeways, but we do have the cleanup of an earlier accident. 600 North, 1300 West. Zero Res. Get one room clean starting at just $25 with a 4-room minimum and 25% off all other services. Use promo code CLEANWEEK. Zero Res. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Showers continue today, but things will dry out tomorrow. Another front moves on Thursday with clouds and a chance of rain. Right now, it is 43 degrees in downtown Salt Lake City. I'm Tammy Kikuchi from the Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
While the headlines continue to focus on the uproar, both against and in support of spending packages passed by Congress, we want to ask the beyond the headlines question, get to the real question, which is, when are we going to start getting serious about the vast majority of our out-of-control spending? Because the think again moment that we all should be thinking about is the fact that the vast majority of our spending in this country doesn't even get voted on by Congress. Let's begin.
Think you know the news of the day? Think again with Boyd Matheson on KSL News Radio.
Eric Boehm, of course, is a reporter at Reason, covers the economic policy, trade policy, and elections, has a great piece, as he always does, delivering some great insight into the latest budget plan that was released and what happens when you try to do something to solve problems in Washington. And it makes all of this pretty unserious in the end. And Eric, welcome back to the show.
Glad to be here, Boyd. Thanks for having me again.
All right, awesome. So you talked today about the ideas within the new budget plan coming out from the Republican side, the House Republican Study Committee, and particular talking about Social Security. So give us kind of the lineup in terms of what is in there, and then we'll get into why it's so hard to have a serious conversation in Washington these days.
Sure, yeah, and plaudits first of all for Representative Moore. I think some of his proposals on reforming the budget process certainly deserve more of a look in D.C. This story is about the Republican Study Committee budget that was released last Wednesday. It's it's 180 pages long. It's a more of an aspirational document really than an actual budget document. I think that you can really compare it to the president's budget proposal, which gets introduced every year in Congress, and members of Congress take a look at it, throw it in the trash can, and then go and write their own budget. It's kind of the same sort of thing. This is the Republicans' version of that. And in there, I mean, this is one detail in 180 pages, but the big detail that got a lot of attention in some headlines last week is a plan to raise the Social Security eligibility age from the current level of 67 years up to 69 years. Note that I say the Social Security eligibility age because I think this commonly gets referred to as the retirement age.
Right.
It's not like the federal government tells you when you can retire or when you should retire. All this is the age at which you become eligible to collect Social Security benefits. So that drew quite a bit of attention and quite a bit of criticism from both the right and the left. This proposal just to nudge that age up by 2 years.
Yeah, and so let's talk through what it actually said. And as you said, this is all aspirational components in terms of that. But the politics fallout was swift, immediate, and across the spectrum for a lot of political purposes, not policy purposes.
Yeah, I mean, you immediately saw the way in which Democrats in particular want to demagogue on this issue heading into the election this year. And of course, this is what's been going on, honestly, for years. It's one of the main reasons why the Social Security and entitlement crises haven't been dealt with in Washington. But the White House immediately put out a statement talking about how Republicans want to cut Social Security. They're not proposing a cut. They're just proposing that some people would not become eligible for it for 2 additional years, which, okay, maybe that's a cut, but it's not certainly not taking anything away from anybody who's currently getting it. And I think just, the way in which this criticism from the White House, from Democrats in Congress, from media, particularly media on the left, it really washes out the policy nuance here and the policy details, which really matter. This would be a 2-year, phased in 2-year increase of the retirement age or of the eligibility age for Social Security. It wouldn't affect anybody who's currently getting Social Security. It wouldn't affect anybody who's within 10 or 15 years of collecting Social Security. And this is the lowest of low-hanging fruits if you're somebody who wants to actually keep this program solvent over the long term. We haven't mentioned it in this conversation, but of course we've talked about it on this program here many times before, Boyd, and that is that, Social Security is going to hit insolvency in the early 2030s. And, if you want to deal with that problem, one of the easiest and probably the first step towards any sort of long-term solution is making some changes to the eligibility age. So this is in some ways an inevitable solution or an inevitable partial solution. And on the other hand, it's also impossible to do because there's just such an unwillingness on both sides to engage seriously about this topic.
Yeah, and the reactions were and the reactions to the reactions are where it gets really crazy in my book, because you have those that, it's immediately pushing, grandma off the cliff. It's, kicking grandpa to the curb. It's all of those things. But it's important to step back from those headlines to kind of have that think again moment of if we do nothing, then there will be real cuts when it hits insolvency. That is going to hurt grandma and grandpa and aunt and uncle and a host of others. But I think the way you frame that, Eric, in terms of, look, this is a 10 to 15 year phase in. So no one who is currently on Social Security or no one who's within a 15-year window is going to be impacted on it. So everyone's going to have plenty of time to plan for all of those things. And yet we so demonize, we so weaponize all of this. It makes me wonder, it makes me worry that we don't have enough that are serious on the policy side anymore because they're too busy making sure the politics works out. And we even saw this on the right. We saw Senator Josh Hawley. You pointed this out in your piece at the Hill that, he played to this because of where he's positioning himself.
Right. You mentioned, it's not just the reaction, but then it's the reaction to the reaction. And I think that's where, what Josh Hawley said is really a great example of that. And so you've got, Democrats on the left who are saying, immediately want to play politics with this. And then what Hawley said is he said that this is a horrible idea. I'm totally opposed to it. he told The Hill, Republicans are so stupid if they want to go to working people and say, congratulations, you've paid into this your whole life, your payroll taxes, and now we're going to take part of it away from you. We're going to make you work even longer than we said beforehand. I think that's just the stupidest thing I've ever heard. That's him saying that, not me. But what he's really saying there is he's really saying that this proposal will hurt Republicans' election prospects going forward. That's really what he's saying here. He's not making a policy argument. He's making entirely a political argument, and he may very well be right. I don't think I think there's probably quite a bit of merit to that. But the prioritization there of the political outcome ahead of the policy outcome, ahead of the outcome that will actually maintain this program or actually allow people who have paid into it to gain back what they feel they are owed. That sort of prioritization is the problem. It may be true that Republicans will do better in elections for the next 5 to 10 years by saying Social Security's fine, we don't need to make any changes. But then you're going to hit the point 9 or 10 years from now in which Social Security is obviously not fine and in which people suddenly see their benefit checks cut by 23, 25%, something like that is the current estimate. And then those voters are going to turn around and say, wait a minute, for the last 10 years, you've been telling us everything's fine, we don't need to make any changes. And now suddenly, obviously, things are not fine. So the prioritization of the politics above the policy is a real problem. It's a problem for many things in Washington and a problem for many things in our politics. But I think this is one of the areas where that disconnect is most apparent and most troubling.
That's my conversation with Eric Boehm. And the thing we got to think again about is the fact that almost 75% of the spending by the federal government is not voted on by your members of Congress or the Senate. It's automatic. That needs to change. If we're going to have change, we have to have a reality check. We have to know where we are if we're going to chart a course to where we want to go. And we can't do that if everything is set on autopilot.
Think again on Inside Sources with Boyd Matheson.
Paid for by government.com. Here's your chance to get 5 iconic United States silver dollars spanning the last 150 years in one amazing set. Experts agree this is a must-have for silver coin buyers. That's right, all 5 silver dollars are legal tender official United States mint coins. If you call 1-800-973-3098 right now, we'll send you this ultimate 5-piece American silver dollar set with each silver coin in extremely fine or brilliant uncirculated condition. Guaranteed. This set includes every type of U.S. silver dollar in American history, issued from 1878 to 2024. Call 1-800-973-3098 now to secure your 150 years of U.S. silver dollars 5-piece set. Plus, receive a bonus display case, an information booklet, and free shipping. Don't miss your chance. Call 1-800-973-3098 now to secure your 5-piece set of iconic U.S. silver dollars before they are gone. That's 1-800-973-3098.
The GOP speaker is getting weaker. Hopefully, somebody will step forward and lead. Does a new vote against Mike Johnson throw the U.S. House in turmoil again?
Everyone is unserious about having a serious conversation about the finances in this country.
Listen this week as Johnson navigates Republican discontent. Get the latest on Inside Sources with Boyd Matheson this week from 1 to 3
on KSL News Radio.
Give the star in your life the brightest gift in the world. Name a star after them. This is Rocky Moselle with International Star Registry. For $59 and a call to 800-282-3333 or visit starregistry.com, you can name a star for birthdays, weddings, or even memorials. Over 45 years, we have named millions of stars for celebrities and individuals from around the world. The star you name will be recorded in book form in the U.S. Copyright Office. Visit starregistry.com or call 800-282-3333.
Heard the catchphrase that's sweeping the nation?
Jackson Hugh, yeah.
People are saying Jackson Hugh, yeah, to Jackson Hewitt because they love saving money on tax prep. Do you love saving money? Then switch to Jackson Hewitt today and pay less than last year. Thousands of people have already made the switch. Why haven't you? Stop waiting and start filing. You won't get a better deal or a better catchphrase. All together now.
Jackson Hugh, yeah!
Proof of prior year payment required when filing. New clients only at participating locations through April 7th. Terms at jacksonhewitt.com.
Hey guys, meet Salt Lake City's favorite men's health expert.
Hi, I'm Eric Ramos, healthcare provider at Revive Men's Health. I've been treating men suffering from low T and ED for over 5 years. And before that, I was a combat medic in the Army and a Navy corpsman in the Marine Corps, responsible for my men and their health every day. I understand firsthand the health challenges that impact men. Many of my patients come to me because they've noticed a lack of energy, loss of strength, increased belly fat, and even depression. Low T can impact your whole life, but so can proper treatment of it. And hearing that my patients are back to living life to the fullest, that's the best part of my job.
Guys, if you're looking for affordable, guaranteed low T and ED solutions, contact Revive for a free T-check and exam today, saving you $199. Call 801-263-7777. That's 801-263-7777. Or visit ReviveMen'sHealth.com.
Any Hour Services can help unclog any drain in your house. Whether you have a backup, a clog, or a slow drain you want fixed, call Any Hour Services or visit AnyHourServices.com.
Hear elevated conversation on crucial issues. Boyd Matheson on Inside Sources.
Welcome back to Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. And as we've talked about many times on this show, for a long time, far too long, by the way, our politicians and our politics have been getting in the way of our politicians and elected officials doing the job. The job that they get elected to do is really the job they end up doing because of the politics of it all. And because of that, we've continued to see this undermining and erosion of trust in the institutions of government. Now, the American people have always been skeptical of government, always a little resistant to government. I think that goes back to our founding. When you have a big oppressive government that's far away, that feels big, that feels intrusive in your life and overbearing, that's not responsive to the needs of the people, that can cause all kinds of problems. And then, of course, it gets compounded when the politicians decide that their job is to be a politician and to do performative things as opposed to governing things. Well, some new polling coming out from our friends at Schoen Cooperman, and Cardi Cooperman, of course, is the CEO of Schoen Cooperman Research and joins us on the line. And Cardi, you guys have been busy on a number of fronts. I want to start with a piece that you and your tag team partner, Doug Schoen, had in The Hill, that the bottom barrel government distrust is sinking even deeper. What did you find out in your latest polling?
Yeah, that's right. Thanks for having me. We found that U.S. adults really are distrusting of government. They view government as self-serving and politically motivated. And as a result, they really don't trust the messaging and the communications that's coming out from government. We found that 63% of U.S. adults say that the government is not effective at getting things done. Another 60% say they don't trust the government to do what's best for our country. And 78% say the government makes decisions mostly based on what's best in the public interest. Based on political reasons, while just 14% say they do what's best for public interest. So as a result of these findings, not surprisingly, 62% also say they don't feel the government is effective at communicating with the public. 65% say they don't trust the information that's coming from the government. But interestingly, I would say, when we asked who do you trust more between information coming from the government or news organizations, while people said they trust news organizations by 3-1, about 23% to 8%, 46% plurality said that they don't trust either. And so I think this speaks to this feeling of misinformation and disinformation that is just everywhere at this point, and this general distrust that people have and skepticism towards everything that's coming out these days.
Yeah, and I find that so fascinating between how people feel they're getting misinformation or disinformation, as you said, and that it is not just government, media as well. And I think it's part of this rise of populism on both the political left and the political right, that there seems to be this elite group that thinks everything's going well, and a lot of them are in those government positions, so they think it's going really, really well. And there's just such a disconnect between what they're living and what the American people are living that I think kind of adds to that distrust.
Yeah, I think that's right. We asked people why. We probed a little bit further, and, why does the public not trust what the government is sharing and telling people? And first and foremost was dishonesty and self-serving interests. And then they spoke about the polarization that takes place in this country, as well as just lack of transparency. And so I think all of those things paint a picture. And furthermore, we also asked people, how can we improve trust in government and in what they're in messaging communications? And far and wide, honesty and transparency, 69% of adults said that. And it was just an overwhelming response. Also, they said things like trust through action, bipartisanship. And so it really paints a picture of, this gap in trust and transparency that's taking place.
Yeah, I wanted to dig into that just a little bit more. It's one we've been really looking at because it does seem that the transparency is the beginning spot and then the accountability is the ending place, that what the American people want. Anything else you find under those numbers in terms of ways that we might begin to restore or at least solidify some of that?
Yeah, the other thing that was really interesting in this research, we interviewed people that are working in government in these communication roles. And what was so interesting is that there is this gap between what those people think are the challenges that they face in terms of communicating to the public, and then what the public actually thinks. And so people working in government communications, they don't see these bad and negative motives that the public feels, and to them it's about being able to have some more transparency, but also it's about timeliness and simplicity of their communications, authenticity. And so for them, it's more about the levers that they might feel make it harder for them to do their job well as an issue. Whereas, for just the American public, like it starts and ends with honesty and transparency and feeling that they can trust what they're hearing.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting. We're equal opportunity offenders on this, and we've hit a number of things. From on the left, you have President Biden, who's been trying to tout good economic news and accomplishments, but the distrust and the disconnect of what he's trying to tout and what the American people are feeling around the kitchen table are just so disconnected. The Republicans have disconnects on a host of different levels, but it does seem to be that there's this elite level that thinks everything is either good or okay, or they're doing the job right, or it kind of goes back to an experience of one of these elites saying, hey, why if the American people would just follow us, and why won't they do that? Why won't they just follow us? And it's like, well, I think you're disconnected with where they would actually like to be led.
Yeah, and I think what you just said really hits out why Biden has struggled for so long with his ratings as it relates to the economy specifically, because he has recently presided over a strong economy. Unemployment is low, job growth is high. Even inflation, which plagued us for so long, has come down significantly, and yet his ratings continue to be so poor as it relates to his handling of the economy and in general. But that aside, I think what we continue to see is that there is this feeling among American voters and the public in general that's like, not necessarily elitism specifically, but just this like disconnect. Hey, you're telling me everything's good, but it doesn't feel good to me.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. And so let's take that one step further. I know you got some new polling out and a new piece in the Hill looking at the now inevitable Biden-Trump 2.0 on the presidential front. Give us a sense of what you're seeing early on there as everyone starts to pivot from the primary election season into what the general election might look like.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, we came out of the field and had Trump leading Biden by 2 points. And this is similar to where other polls are coming out. It is absolutely a very close race right now. And in general, there's a long ways to go between now and the end of the year. But there's other questions, that we asked that's really showing where the electorate is in terms of some of the things that have dominated the conversation around, the flaws of Joe Biden, the flaws of Donald Trump. And, what we found is that more voters, a 36% plurality, were worried about Biden's mental fitness. They said that was more of a concern, while 33% said Donald Trump's legal problems and his unethical conduct were more of the concern, whereas 22% said that both were problematic. And, I think that for a while there was this perception that, Trump's legal issues could be very problematic in, the election at the end of the day, despite everything, how far he'd gotten so far. But, as these courts are pushing back the cases more and more. And, in this recent poll, we did see a switch in the horse race if Trump were to actually be convicted, but it only moved the horse race by a few points. It was still virtually tied. It put Biden up ahead by 1 point. Whereas Biden continues to struggle with this perception as being seen as not mentally fit. And I think that's what we saw last week at the State of the Union, and also, what he's doing now in the campaign trail to try to really dispel that perception.
Yeah, great numbers, great underneath the numbers as always, and that's why we always turn to Carly Cooperman and Sean Cooperman. And Carly, great stuff. Two great pieces in The Hill, one really hitting the middle of the trust in government issue, and then, of course, the horse race is really heating up, and we'll continue to turn to you for some perspective underneath those numbers as we continue to march it all forward. Carly, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
And some breaking news as we round out that segment on some presidential politics. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has just announced that Nicole Shanahan, a tech entrepreneur from Oakland, California, will be his vice president. We'll get into that a little bit further. We'll step aside for some bottom of the hour news. We'll be right back with more Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
.30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Tammy Kikuchi. KSL's top local story this hour. Booster clubs from 2 national women's soccer teams have spoken out against the jersey sponsor of the Utah Royals FC.
That sponsor is America First Credit Union. The uproar, supporters of the North Carolina Courage, stated on X that the phrase America First has a long history rooted in racism, fascism, and hateful ideology. That post has over 1 million views. The credit union clarified in a statement saying, America comes from its connection with the U.S. government and working with people who worked on military bases. First was meant to reflect our continuing dedication, putting the financial needs of our members at the forefront. Even Governor Spencer Cox voiced his feelings on X that said, just when you think this website can't get any more ridiculous, I had to check if this was a parody account. Sadly, it's not. Eric Cabrera, KSL News Radio.
Breeze Airways will now provide nonstop service to Dallas-Fort Worth from Provo. The new route will start on June 7th with twice weekly service on Mondays and Fridays. Fares start at $69. Breeze Airways also provides nonstop flights from Provo to Orange County, Phoenix, and San Francisco. The U.S. Supreme Court is hearing arguments regarding the use of an anti-abortion drug that's been on the market since 2000. Mifepristone is used in more than half of abortions in the United States. And recently, the FDA eased restrictions on its use, allowing it to be distributed by mail. Anti-abortion group called Alliance for Hippocratic Medicine brought the latest suit to the nation's high court, claiming it was unsafe for youth, but abortion rights advocates say the FDA underwent rigorous consideration when it eased up on those restrictions.
These people in the Supreme Court and anti-abortion groups want to tell me what to do with my body again. We have talked about how safe mifepristone is over and over again.
Your money at this moment, the Dow and the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ are all in positive territory. Coming up, we'll have a look at your weather, which it looks like it might return to spring soon. KSL News Time is 1:32.
It's a priority for us at this station to bring you all sides of a story and to talk about the news fairly, completely.
Get all the facts and be really aware. Utah's Morning News with us, Tim and Amanda.
Weekday mornings 5 to 9 on KSL News Radio.
At Progressive, we know money can't buy happiness. But money did buy your boat, where you find peace fishing, unlike at home with 3 teenage daughters. Because fish never argue about who stole whose crop top, or get mad the other fish used up all the hot water. No, they just swim around, never embarrassed to be seen with you in public. So save money by bundling your boat or RV insurance with home or auto from Progressive. And buy more happiness, or something close to it. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and other insurers, not available in all states.
Ew, gotta get rid of this old Backstreet Boys t-shirt.
Tell me why.
Because it stinks, boys.
Tell Tell me why.
I've washed it so many times, but the odor won't come out.
Tell me why.
No, you tell me why I can't get rid of this odor.
Have you tried Downy Rinse and Refresh? It doesn't just cover up odors, it helps remove them.
Wow, it worked, guys.
Yeah.
Downy Rinse and Refresh removes more odor in one wash than the leading value detergent in 3 washes. Find it wherever you buy laundry products.
Jazz Plus is here. With Jazz Plus, you can watch games live from your TV, computer, tablet, or phone. So don't miss any of the action when you're at home or away. Can't get enough of your favorite team? Go behind the scenes and see what the team is up to on and off the court. With flexible plans, you can choose what works for you, from full season to monthly, or just pick a single game you want to watch. Sign up and subscribe today at UtahJazzPlus.com.
You know, it's hard to believe that Dee and I have now been living in our new house for about 9 years now. You know, the thing that has really surprised me is how many appliances we have had to have work on and even replace. You know, the one that we haven't replaced, haven't done any work on at all, have not had a minute's trouble with, it's the Kinetico soft water system. And it's so interesting because when we were building the home, the builder said, okay, well, what do you want for a water softener? And I just interrupted. I said, wait, we're going to go with Kinetico. And they just smiled at me like, yeah, we know about Kinetico. Never once have we had an issue with our Kinetico soft water system, not only in our new home, but in our previous home as well. It just sits there in the basement, does its job, does it so much more efficiently than any other soft water system out there on the market today. Why don't you give them a call, 801-576-8600, or go to softwaterutah.com.
Looking for a secure retirement plan without market risk? Look no further. Lyle Boss, president of Boss Financial, specializes in no market risk retirement strategies with guarantees of principal, guaranteed growth, and lifelong income. Join Lyle right here each Saturday and Sunday for his Safe Money radio show, and call him now at 855-355-SAFE for your complimentary customized Safe Money information kit and Safe Money book. Nothing but upside here at 855-355-SAFE.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Sinclair's Dino Pay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Ricky Meese.
We have a crash with possible injuries in Utah County impacting both directions of Highway 189 Provo Canyon. This is at Bridal Veil Falls, and it's blocking multiple center lanes of traffic. They will temporarily stop traffic at times and then let you go through. Be prepared for delays. Spend time with the ones you love in the most unique dining experiences in Utah. Five Alls Restaurant. 5 stars, 5 courses, full of history and tradition. Open Wednesday through Saturday. Visit 5alls.com. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Showers continue today, but things are going to dry out tomorrow, and another front moves in on Thursday with clouds and a chance of rain. Right now, it's 45 degrees and mostly cloudy outside. I'm Tammy Kikuchi from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Of course, there's been a lot of fuss and kerfuffles over the $1.2 trillion spending bill that Congress passed at 2 a.m. in the Senate on Saturday, averting the government shutdown there. But within that, of course, there was some important funding for Ukraine.
With the three things.
The challenge, of course, is the money really there, or is it already gone? Great piece in Politico today. Connor O'Brien is defense reporter for Politico, covers Congress there, and again, part of this great piece in Politico. And Connor, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So break this down for us. It's one of those where everyone says, okay, yay, there's a little bit of help and a little bit of light there for Ukraine, and the reality is this money's sort of already gone?
Yeah, well, actually, when I started reporting this, I thought it was a pretty straightforward story of this year-end full year government funding deal. As you mentioned, the $1.2 trillion that included $800+ billion for the Pentagon. and $300 million for their efforts to arm Ukraine. This is I should stress, it's very different than the billions of dollars that Congress has been appropriating in Ukraine aid since the war started. This has been a thing that's been going on for about a decade to kind of train and equip Ukraine's military, get them up to snuff, after Russia invaded Crimea in 2014. But what we found out was in November, the Pentagon had already allocated this money. The government had been under a temporary funding measure called the Continuing Resolution. In that time, they had obligated that money. They put it under contract for some things that Ukraine's military needed. So while it was looking to be a small victory, it's really just symbolic. And I think it shows. Yeah, sure. There's bipartisan support there to show some support for Ukraine, but this is not a supplement for a bigger Ukraine package, and it's not going to help turn the tide.
Yeah, and I think that's an important thing for us to look at. And you pointed this out really well in your piece in terms of there really hasn't been anything new in terms of that commitment for quite some time when it comes to Ukraine as far as additional dollars or additional resources going there. Most of this has been kind of drawing down some things that were already done.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is actually the first, really on paper anyway, this is the first Ukraine money, Ukraine aid that's been approved in over a year, because the last time it was done was another one of these big funding packages that happened at the end of 2022, right at the end of the past Congress. So before the Republican majority in the House took over. Most of what's gone on in that time has been the Pentagon is taking weapons that it already has in military inventories, shipping those out to Ukraine, and the money that Congress has provided has allowed the Pentagon to buy replacement weapons, newer stuff for the U.S. military. And so that's most of what has been going on to aid Ukraine. And I think, again, there's also this kind of, people like to say when, X number of billions of dollars have been approved in Ukraine aid, that money's going to Ukraine. It's actually staying here and going to refill those inventories, that the military has depleted, just shipping it into the fight in Ukraine.
Yeah, I think that's such an important point. I want you to unpack that just a little bit more for us, because a lot of people do think, we're just sending money, blank check is usually the way it gets framed, when in reality it is both, these specific hard assets, as you described it, and also it's an opportunity for the U.S. to replenish some things with some upgraded systems or upgraded weapons. So part of this is actually good because it's happening in the U.S., U.S. workers, U.S. military, and often that gets lost in just the dollar amount, and it feels like it's just that blank check.
Yeah, I think there's I think there has been there's been a tendency to look at the total dollar value of some of these really big, and they are very big, funding packages that have been approved to assist Ukraine, and think that, the U.S. is then providing Ukraine $40 billion, $50 billion, when it's really just most of that money goes to the Pentagon, goes to other, elements to buy replacement weapons. For what's gone into what's been sent into Ukraine. I mean, the fastest way the U.S. has found to get Ukraine the weapons, the ammo, the equipment it needs is just to provide it directly from the inventories that the military has, and then buy it back for the military later with newer replacement equipment. And so what we're finding is, some of these older missiles, munitions, can be, the Ukrainians, they know now how to use them. We can send them right off the shelf and just buy, the newer version for the military. Right. And so, like, the interesting thing, and this has become a selling point for both President Biden and some top Republicans like Mitch McConnell, they've really harped on this point. The money, most of it anyway, does not leave U.S. shores. It goes into the defense industry to build up production lines. And, a big selling point for them is, this means jobs. Aiding Ukraine means jobs.
Yeah. And then finally, just in our last 30 seconds here, give us a little look forward. We're hearing rumblings that there may be that supplemental aid package with Ukraine and Israel that could be brought to the floor as early as right after the Easter break. What are you hearing there? Will it be divided into two bills? What's your sense?
Sure. So Speaker Mike Johnson has indicated increasingly that he's going to do something. Congress is gone until mid-April, so they won't touch anything until then. There's been a lot of pressure on him from Democrats to pick up the $95 billion combined Senate bill, but he's indicated that he may split up votes on Ukraine and Israel. We don't really know what exactly it is that Johnson would give a vote on, if it is the Senate bill, some kind of divided package, or if there's some kind of hybrid, like making it a loan to assuage, some fiscal conservatives. So we don't know what that is. I think the next 2 weeks are going to be telling in terms of how Republicans socialize a potential path forward among themselves, how Johnson sells something.
Great perspective, as always. Connor O'Brien, defense reporter for Politico. Great piece. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks.
And we were step aside. We're getting some update on the Baltimore bridge collapse. We'll go to that next on KSL News Radio.
In the history of the world, nobody has ever said, "Yay, we need a new roof." But when things aren't quite right up there, don't wait. Call IWC Roofing, the highest-rated roofing contractor in Utah. IWC has been in business since 1997, and they offer the best value pricing in Utah, along with the best warranty in the business. They're one of the few Owens Corning Platinum-certified roofers in the entire state. They have their own installers, no subcontractors crawling around on your roof. And at IWC Roofing, they'll send you pictures from up on the roof to show that you're getting exactly what you paid for. In most cases, they'll re-roof your home in 1 day. They'll clean up and pressure wash your driveway. IWC roofs more homes than any other company in Utah, so they can offer you a better price. And right now, an extra $1,500 off your new roof. Call IWC Roofing for a no-pressure quote, 801-232-5690. Call 801-232-5690 or go to IWCRoofingUtah.com.
KSL Broadcast Group contests are open to participants 13 years of age and older that are residents of Utah, Idaho, Wyoming, and Nevada, unless otherwise specified. Employees or agents of the station, Bonneville International Corporation, or other area radio stations, or any entity associated with the contest may not enter. Persons who have won in the last 90 days from a station contest or event are not eligible. Full general contest rules are available at KSLNewsRadio.com.
Do you enjoy fishing, hunting, or just soaking in the beautiful outdoors? Then you need to check out the KSL Outdoors Show, airing Saturdays at 6:30 p.m. and midnight on KSL 5 TV. Outdoors with Me, Adam Eagle, is a unique show that takes viewers on a journey through Utah's beautiful backcountry. Watch it live every weekend or find the Outdoor Show on YouTube, KSLOutdoors.com, Facebook, and Instagram. It's the KSL Outdoors Show, brought to you by Camp Chef.
We are going to go to an update happening on the bridge collapse and search and rescue efforts. Pete Buttigieg, Transportation Secretary, is now at the microphone. Let's take a listen.
And city personnel led by the county executive and the mayor working hand in glove with us and with our sister federal agencies. And if there's one thing I have to say today, it is a note of gratitude for the extraordinary and courageous work of the first responders, some of whom are in that cold water right now, some of whom are from right here, some of whom have traveled in to render mutual aid, all of whom are responding with extraordinary professionalism and whose work has already saved lives. And to those state, county, and local responders, I would add the extraordinary work of the United States Coast Guard. We should also recognize that this is an excruciating day for several families. who went to bed last night having it be a normal night and woke up today to news that no one wants to receive. They are hoping and praying, and we are hoping and praying with them. We are all putting our arms around the community of Baltimore, and that is true for all of this country. I've even heard from counterparts as far away as the United Kingdom reaching out to express their support to the people of Baltimore. As been mentioned, been in close contact with the governor, the mayor, county leadership, and the congressional delegation. And as President Biden has made clear, the federal government will provide all of the support that they need for as long as it takes. This is no ordinary bridge. This is one of the cathedrals of American infrastructure. It has been part of the skyline of this region for longer than many of us have been alive. So the path to normalcy will not be easy. It will not be quick. It will not be inexpensive. But we will rebuild together. In order to make sure that happens, the president's plan is to work with everyone here in order to rebuild this bridge and reopen this port, including our readiness as a department to approve emergency funding as soon as we receive that request. Meanwhile, our Maritime Administration will help with port, harbor, and supply chain operations. Our Federal Highway Administration will assist when it comes to the bridge itself and any ways that we can help ease roadway congestion for residents and commuters who can no longer use this major thoroughfare. The Federal Aviation Administration is even involved, working to keep the airspace above the bridge clear for emergency personnel. PHMSA, our Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration, is on the scene to help with any hazmat issues. And our newly stood up freight office is already at work preparing for supply chain impacts that we know are coming because of the importance of this port, not just to the Baltimore region, but really to the entire United States economy.
You've been listening to Pete Buttigieg, of course, Transportation Secretary in the Biden administration, just giving an official update in terms of what's happening after the tragic collapse of the bridge. And we'll continue to watch and monitor that here with any updates on the search and rescue efforts, as well as the plans for rebuilding here on KSL News Radio. We'll step aside for a quick break. We'll come back with more Inside Sources coming up next.
Believe it or not, it's time for spring cleaning. Beat the spring cleaning rush with big savings and priority booking today. You're not the only one who's tired of winter this year. Your carpets are too. With Zerorez's platinum-rated cleaning systems and environmentally friendly ZR water, they'll extract all that nasty out so your home will look and smell like a home should, with their no residue difference. It's what separates Zerorez from the competition. Just check out the 3,300 raving customer reviews online with a 4.8 Google rating and see what the hype is all about. Right now, get one room of carpet cleaning starting at just $25 with a 4-room minimum. And also take 25% off all other services like air ducts, tile, upholstery, and rugs by using promo code CLEANWEEK to celebrate Utah's Cleaning Week. You owe it to yourself and your family to breathe healthy, happy, and clean. Call Zerorez right now, 801-288-9376. Or go online to Zerorez.com and say you want the Clean Week special. Zerorez. Spell it backwards or forwards. It's the right way to clean.
Stop for a moment and think about this. Do you know how much money in your 401k or IRA is actually yours? Or will the government take a bigger chunk than you thought? Remember, you still might owe taxes on that money. But do you have a plan to help make sure you don't pay more than you should? At Capital Wealth Advisors, we believe you deserve to keep more of what you've earned, which is why we're here to help you navigate the confusing world of retirement taxes. It's your money. You deserve to know what's at stake. Right now, taxes are historically low, but they won't be this low forever. So call the Capital Wealth Advisors team today so you don't miss out on this opportunity. 801-210-5500. That's 801-210-5500. You work hard for your money, and we'll work just as hard to help you keep it. Capital Wealth Advisors, 801-210-5500. Advisory services offered through Capital Wealth Advisors, LLC, a state of Utah registered investment advisor. Firm may not give tax advice.
Any Hour Services can help you make sure your furnace keeps you warm this winter. Whether you need a tune-up, a repair, or a second opinion about replacing it, call Any Hour Services or visit anyhourservices.com.
Boyd Matheson divides rage from reason on Inside Sources.
Welcome back to Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. It's great to be with you today. As always, I am Boyd Matheson. And, as the investigation takes place into circumstances surrounding the military's retreat from Afghanistan, looking back to 2021, it's more important than ever to learn the lessons that history teaches us. The question is, will our leaders learn from those past mistakes? And more importantly, what needs to happen to prevent those very situations from repeating into the future? Harlan Ullman's a senior advisor at the Atlantic Council and chairman of the Killowen Group that advises leaders of government and business, had a great piece in The Hill about the United States' second retreat from Kabul. And Harlan, welcome to the program, and give us the backstory here. I don't know that a lot of people are familiar with this.
Boyd, it's good to be with you. I use the analogy, this is not America's second retreat, but this is, in a way, the second retreat from Kabul. The first in January of 1842, were when 16,000 British and other residents tried to make it to Jalalabad. All but one were killed. And so that retreat was far, far more disastrous. But the American retreat from Kabul in 2021, as you pointed out, is notable for at least two reasons. One, when a crisis goes from one administration to a second administration, it usually does not get better. The Nixon administration inherited Vietnam from the Johnson-Kennedy administration, and that did not turn out to be well. Recall the retreat from Saigon with the last helicopter lifting off from Saigon. The wars in Afghanistan and Iraq were inherited by both the Obama and Trump administrations from the Bush administration. And the problem with this retreat from Kabul that took place in 2021 is that the seeds of disruption and failure were planted when the Trump administration signed in February 2020 the so-called Doha Accord with the Taliban, saying that the Americans would leave Afghanistan, turning it over to the Taliban in 14 months. The Taliban would provide all the security, and the Taliban would negotiate with the Ashraf Ghani government of Afghanistan, a government which was not represented in the Doha Accords. In fact, those accords were seen as so dangerous that the then Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, refused to sign them, and instead having Ambassador Zal Khalilzad sign them, because I don't think Pompeo wanted to be stuck with that honor. And so when it came to August of 2021, the Biden administration had to get out, and the Ashraf Ghani administration had departed in mid-August on August 15th. And so here was a country with no government. The Taliban were in charge, and what were you going to do? The planning was not perfect because the administration only taken over in January. And so most of the vacancies were still there in the national security area. And the State Department, which is responsible for declaring a non-combatant evacuation, and so-called NEO, did so, but the evacuation was taking place in a war zone. And so all the conditions were perfect for what happened, and it was a perfect storm with 170 Afghans being killed and 13 Americans. And of course, the Biden administration has been given the responsibility. But the fact of the matter is, this was a failure of American decision-making that began with the Trump administration.
Yeah, and I think that's so. One of the things I just loved in your piece was that line that so often what gets handed from one administration to the next generally gets worse. And I think it's an important thing because it's important in terms of that planning and strategy to recognize what has gone on, and then how do you make that transaction or transition and move it all forward. Give us a little perspective in terms of some of these lessons in terms of how we should be thinking about this. Obviously, these kinds of withdrawals where we obviously have U.S. service members, we have employees and civilians, and then we also have important allies who've been very helpful to the U.S. In all of these kinds of situations. How do we need to think differently about these kinds of things?
The fundamental thing we have to do is that we have a transfer of administrations. The election takes place in the first week of November, and the president is not inaugurated until January 20th. that's a very, very critical period for the transition to take place. And in some cases, the transitions are not good. In some cases, they are better. But then the problem breaks down in the whole confirmation process, where the president has some 4,000 people he needs to appoint politically to places in his government, not just the State and Defense Department. And given the difficulties that have emerged over the last 20 years between Congress and the White House, it may take an administration almost 2 years to fill all its appointments. Obviously, it will appoint its immediate secretaries of each of the cabinets quickly, but those people are not the people who do all the work. And so what we need to do is to make sure that we change the whole process so that the government can have the people it needs immediately in office. And one way to do that is, I think, that both parties should have people who are potentially government appointees who are pre-cleared. In other words, it takes forever to get your clearances through. And so why not have the party come up with 50 or 100 or 200 people who each might appoint? And so when the election takes place, those people will already have their clearances in place, and so it can expedite the ability to put people in place. But in the future, we're going to have these crises. Whether whoever wins the next election, it's very likely that Ukraine and Gaza are going to be going on. If it's the Trump administration, they will have the same problems that the Biden administration had with the Trump administration, and I can see all the grounds ready for some serious errors. So what do we have to do? We've got to fix the transition process. That's the first.
Yeah, that transition process is everything. This is great perspective. Harlan Ullman, Senior Advisor on the Atlantic Council, Chairman of the Killowen Group. Thanks so much for joining us today. Great piece. We look forward to having you back. That wraps up hour number 1 of Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. We'll step aside for some top-of-the-hour news. When we come back, we'll give you a little update on the political front, the presidential front, including a new vice president nominee coming up with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. We'll talk about that coming up next.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
KSL News Time, 2 p.m. I'm Tammy Kikuchi. KSL's top story this hour. A body has been recovered from the water during the search around the collapsed bridge in Baltimore. The container ship collided with the Francis Scott Key Bridge that suspends over a waterway in Maryland. The cargo vessel is issued a mayday call saying they've lost control. Authorities say it was moving at a very rapid speed when it struck the bridge. ABC's Ike Igiochi is in Baltimore.
We're being told that there was a crew of 8 workers who were busy filling potholes at the time of the incident. Now, when that mayday came from that container ship, we're being told officials on the bridge essentially stopped traffic. And right now we're learning that the Maryland transportation officials, they reviewed the traffic cameras and they're now confirming that no vehicles were transiting the bridge at the time of the incident.
Diesel truck drivers are encouraged to take advantage of some funding to repair emissions controls that are broken or have been tampered. Jay Clark with the Davis County Environmental Health says drivers mistakenly think they're getting a better performance by disabling the controls.
If the truck is functioning at factory settings, it's running as optimal and as efficient as possible. And so when you tamper those components, you're typically not doing yourself a service. You're not getting better power or efficiency.
Drivers can receive up to $6,000 for the repair. Your money at this moment, all the markets, Dow, the S&P 500, and the NASDAQ are down slightly. We'll have a look at coming up, we'll have a look at the weather, and it hopefully will be turning into spring sooner or later. KSL News Time is 2:01.
Here's a way to get breaking news updates anywhere you go.
At the store or in a work meeting, you can get breaking news on your phone.
You can quickly read it, swipe, or click for more. It's super discreet, super fast.
That's the app for KSL News Radio.
Are you stressing about your IRS tax problems? Have you received notices from the IRS threatening to garnish your wages, levy your bank accounts, or seize your property? You need an ally. Allies Tax Relief has tax attorneys and enrolled agents that are ready to fight for you. They have saved millions for taxpayers just like you. Allies Tax Relief can help put a stop to IRS collections and, most importantly, negotiate your tax debt. Here's Brenda, a happy client of Allies Tax Relief.
I owed the IRS around $57,000, and they're about to start garnishing my paychecks. I heard a commercial on the radio about Ally's tax relief, so I thought I'd give them a call. After a day, they were able to at least stop the garnishments, and after a few months of negotiations, I walked away owing the IRS only $301.
If you owe the IRS, call Allies Tax Relief right now for your free consultation. Call 800-230-5174. 800-230-5174. That's 800-230-5174.
Introducing Peach Doors and Windows. Are you ready to upgrade your home with stunning new doors, but you're like me and you're just overwhelmed with how to begin? Well, at Peach, experience the luxury of custom-made doors that are tailored specifically for you. It's not just about looks, it's about durability, it's about security to protect what matters most. Fiberglass, energy-efficient aluminum, custom oversized glass doors, and so much more. Let Peach help you find the perfect match for your home, budget, and of course, your personal style. Visit the showrooms. No pushy sales tactics, only guidance from their very experienced staff. No inflated markups just to offer so-called discounts. Amazing home transformations begin with windows and doors. Serving Logan all the way to St. George. Just Google Peach Building Products and see it all for yourself.
Rick at loansbyrick.com has some important information for anyone in Utah and Idaho who's thinking of buying a house. Do it now. Don't wait until summer, because home prices in those two states will likely increase by 10 to 20% due to in-migration from California and other states. That means a house that costs $400,000 right now will go up by $40 to $80,000 with multiple offers. Interest rates may drop later in the year, possibly to the 6% range, but the increased cost of the home will mean that your monthly payments will go up by a lot. So start looking and buy now. Refinance when the interest rates go down. Waiting to buy your home will only hurt you in the long run. For more details and buying strategies, call Rick at loansbyrick.com right now. 801-809-SAVE. Rick can evaluate your situation and get you on the path to buying a home today. 801-809-SAVE or click loansbyrick.com.
Rick Kirschenbaum, NMLS 241179 and Vintage Lending, NMLS 287106 are equal housing lenders. Some restrictions apply.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Sinclair's Dino Pay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Ricky Meese.
Crews are still working on the crash in Utah County in Provo Canyon, Highway 189 by Bridalveil Falls, and a new accident for Utah County drivers. This crash is at the bottom of the exit ramp from southbound I-15 at Center Street, Provo. Zero res, get one room cleaned, starting at just $25 with a 4-room minimum and 25% off all other services. Use promo code CLEANWEEK. Zero res. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
We got some rain coming in, and it's going to be beautiful otherwise, and the skies will start to clear up, and this is the third and final day of the pop-up spring showers. Right now it is mostly cloudy and 45 degrees. I'm Tammy Kikuchi from the Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources.
Inside Sources.
America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Well, some of the election news has died down after many of the primary contests have been held, and both the Democrats and the Republicans are marching on into the summer conventions. I think we all need a little exhale there. And in most cases, when it comes to who the vice presidential choice is, there's usually not a lot of impact there, but maybe not so fast. Let's look beyond the headlines at a vice president nominee that just might make a difference. Let's begin.
Think you know the news of the day? Think again with Boyd Matheson on KSL News Radio.
Well, while the current president has a vice president and the former president is yet to name who his party's vice presidential nominee might be, a lot of speculation about that. Meanwhile, third-party challenger Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is both not dropping out and is actually speeding up his own campaign run, announcing just moments ago that his vice presidential pick would be Nicole Shanahan. She's a tech lawyer. The announcement was made, again, just a little bit ago in Oakland, California. And actually, Nicole Shanahan is actually speaking right now. We're going to try to see if we can get a little bit of that sound. But let's start with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. He began his speech in Oakland, California today by talking about the campaign of his father. He framed Robert F. Kennedy Sr. as a unifying figure in the face of a very politicized and polarized political time, and said we need to start listening to each other a little better in this country.
We need to start listening to each other, even when it's difficult. We need to sit through the anger. We need to sit with each other and listen to the feelings and not walk away and not see each other as enemies, but learn to love each other even through that anger and vitriol. We need to start coming back to each other as Americans again.
Now, we've had Mr. Kennedy on the program a couple of times, and he is very focused on that message of it is time to come back to the table. It is time to sit together. He's also spoken a lot about the need to change access to the ballot, the millions of dollars and countless lawsuits that are required because of this two-headed monster of the Democrats and Republicans who make it very difficult for anyone else to get on a ballot because it's good for them to have just a two-headed monster as opposed to having multiple parties on the ballot. Mr. Kennedy announced formally his vice president and running mate, Nicole Shanahan.
I'm so proud to introduce to you the next vice president of the United States, my fellow lawyer, a brilliant scientist, technologist, a fierce warrior mom, Nicole Shanahan.
And that was the formal announcement. He has a running mate now, Nicole Shanahan, as he mentioned, a tech lawyer. It was interesting in his introduction of Nicole Shanahan, he talked about her having the gift of curiosity. I thought that was very interesting, and also the confidence that it is required to change your mind. And in the politics of today, having someone who does have that courage to change your mind in the face of the facts, in the face of changing circumstances, is actually something we should be looking for. And we're actually going to go to Nicole Shanahan. She is at the microphone now in Oakland, California, accepting that recommendation from Mr. Kennedy that she will be the vice presidential running mate.
I want my country, the country I love so dearly, to be doing that in the world. Yeah. So these are two of my political convictions I hold today: to serve peace and to help those in poverty. Yeah. So you can understand why I gravitated to the Democratic Party, because that was supposed to be the party of peace, the party of compassion. Many Democrats, we still believe in those ideals, but unfortunately, as an institution, it has lost its way. There is only one anti-war candidate today, and you won't find him in the Democratic Party or the Republican Party. He is an independent, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Yes. Yes, and it is his commitment to peace and to the welfare of hardworking people in America that draw me as a person of compassion to his candidacy. Yes. As recently as a year ago, I really didn't think much of Bobby Kennedy because I didn't know much about him. All I had was a mainstream media narrative that was effectively telling me horrible, disparaging things. But then a friend who's here today pulled me aside and she said, "Nicole, please do me a favor. Just listen to an interview with Bobby Kennedy, just one." So I did. And then I listened to another one and then another one, and I recognized that the person who I was seeing in these interviews was the exact opposite of the media slander of his character.
So that is Nicole Shanahan, running mate, vice presidential running mate for Robert F. Kennedy Jr., in an announcement that was made just a little bit ago in Oakland, California, her hometown. Nicole Shanahan is a California-based attorney. Of course, she was previously married to Google co-founder Sergey Brin. And again, she is now officially the running mate, the vice presidential candidate to go alongside Robert F. Kennedy Jr. She does run a foundation focused on reproductive rights, criminal justice, and the environment. Before backing Kennedy's independent bid, Shanahan had previously been a donor to Democratic campaigns, including supporting Joe Biden in his election in 2020. And it's an interesting choice, I think, from Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Many thought he would go with a more known and recognized name. But clearly this is someone who is committed to the cause and to the path. She invested a significant amount of money to run an ad campaign during the Super Bowl featuring Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And so there is some interesting things that will come out of that in terms of the conversation. And I think one of the most interesting things to me in terms of takeaways today, I thought it was fascinating that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. spent a lot of his time today talking about and taking on the notion of him just being a spoiler candidate. And as Nicole Shanahan just pointed out, the media and the major political parties want to make that the issue, that Kennedy can only be a spoiler. And he wants to make sure people understand that that's not the case. I actually happen to agree with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. on that point, that if we all believe it's a binary choice, if we all believe that we have to vote for just one or the other, lesser of two evils, then we end up getting the same results we've always had. So I think an independent voice and an independent candidacy, whether you agree with it or not, is actually a good thing for the Republic. That's something to think again about. We'll be right back.
Think again on Inside Sources with Boyd Matheson.
You know, the thing I love most about Hercules First Federal Credit Union is that it is all about community. Community first, community last, community always. And making sure that everybody understands and has the right education to go along with all the things they need when it comes to their finances. It's never about a transaction at Hercules Credit Union. Right now, they have a home court advantage loan. If you're buying your first home, that's a big deal. It's a big decision, and it's a big headache. With Hercules Credit Union, they're going to get rid of that stress for you. They've got down payments as little as $1,000. No private mortgage insurance is required, and they have all kinds of options for exactly what you need, not what someone else thinks you need. What do you need? And that's what Hercules is all about. You can find their locations in Taylorsville, Harriman, Riverton, or Salt Lake City, or as always with our friends at Hercules Credit Union, you can just find them online at HerculesCU.com. That's HerculesCU.com.
The GOP speaker is getting weaker.
Hopefully, somebody will step forward and lead.
Does a new vote against Mike Johnson throw the U.S. House in turmoil again?
Everyone is unserious about having a serious conversation about the finances in this country.
Listen this week as Johnson navigates Republican discontent. Get the latest on Inside Sources with Boyd Matheson this week from 1 to 3
on KSL News Radio.
3 days only. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Save thousands on hot tubs and swim spas. It's a major manufacturer's liquidation of hundreds of in-stock spas. Utah State Fair Park. Hot tubs discounted 40 to 80% to the lowest possible price, starting at $29.99. Free professional delivery. Take possession tomorrow, next week, next month, or next season. The Hot Tub and Swim Spa Sale. Utah State Fair Park. Shop over a dozen models of swim spas from 11 feet to over 19 feet. Swim spas offer low-impact exercise, active family fun, unsurpassed relaxation, and installation in one day. The Hot Tub and Swim Spa Sale. Everything must go. Free parking, free admission. You can't afford to miss this. It's a major manufacturer's liquidation of hundreds of in-stock spas.
Friday, noon to 8 p.m. Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m.
The Hot Tub and Swim Spa Sale. Utah State Fair Park. Visit hottubandswimspasale.com.
Discover the best of senior living at Trio Orem and Trio South Ogden. Today's older adults aren't wrapping up their life's journey, they're seeking a new one. And Trio Independent Living is here to help them do just that. With a smart, modern, and connected lifestyle, residents cultivate relationships and maximize independence through signature programs like Prime Fit Wellness that bring living well and well-being to life. Welcome to the new age of senior living at Trio.
Schedule your visit at leisurecare.com/Utah today.
It's been a rough winter for sure,
but visitors are flocking to Box Elder County. Our feathered visitors, that is. Bear River Migratory Bird Refuge is busy hosting swans to swallows, geese to grebes. The spring migration is in full swing, and all that's missing is you. Box Elder County really is for the birds. Just a short 60 minutes north of Salt Lake, Box Elder County is the perfect place to make memories and celebrate spring, along with spending time with our feathered friends. You'll experience amazing restaurants and unique shopping. Come take a soak at Crystal Hot Springs, home to the highest mineral content of any natural hot springs in the world. Let the winter melt away as you relax and rejuvenate. Take in a theater performance at one of the live theaters or visit one of the fine museums. Visitors really are chirping all about Box Elder County. Check out visitboxeldercounty.com and see why Box Elder County is for the birds. That's boxeldercounty.com. What's in your garden? Oakdale Organic Compost nutrient-rich formula makes vegetables, flowers, trees, and lawns grow beautifully. No wonder it's the official compost of Thanksgiving Point. Visit oakdale.com.
Tim and Amanda.
Yes, KSL is a trusted institution. I mean, it's a 100-year-old institution, and I know that with that legacy comes a responsibility and a trust. But I want you to know, we have diverse voices at this radio station. Young people, we have people of all different ages, of all different cultural backgrounds, who put their 2 cents into what stories we cover from day to day, a voice that is given to those stories.
Well, I've been kicking around the Salt Lake City market for 40 years. I felt like I needed a decade of radio under my belt before I even attempted to climb that mountain. So as important as KSL is to you, you need to know that it's an important institution for both of us and something that we take very seriously in the responsibility of providing the right news and information for you and your families every day and carrying on the tradition of this great radio station.
Utah's Morning News between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Tammy Kikuchi. First, a body was found in the water where a bridge collapsed in Maryland. Second, Breeze Airways opens up new flights from Provo to Dallas for $69 each way. And third, the woman accused of killing her husband and then writing a children's book on grief is now facing additional charges. Right now, it's 45 degrees in Salt Lake City. Back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Get deeper insights on the news from Inside Sources.
Well, a new study from the Sutherland Institute says the majority of Utah voters would support making curriculum for Utah's K-12 students accessible to the public. And that curriculum transparency has been shown to boost parent and student engagement, as well as heighten teacher awareness of the material. But is stacking another task on top of our educators' already full plates, is that reasonable? Is that rational? Is that doable, sustainable? Those are all the things we want to get to. And what is it that's going to make it worth it for our educators to keep moving forward? And someone who understands this better than anybody I know, who looks beyond just the numbers of these things and really looks at the impact, is Christine Cooks Fairbanks, who is the Education Policy Fellow at the Sutherland Institute. Her research focuses on education pluralism and parent-driven education. And Christine, welcome back to the show.
Boyd, thank you for having me.
So let's get into this transparency thing. I thought the study was so fascinating in terms of what matters and then that critical balance in terms of what that does for the students and the parents and then what it can do and the challenge it can be for educators.
Yeah, so you're exactly right. It showed that the majority of likely voters in Utah support the idea of having instructional materials or curriculum accessible to parents and the public. What was also interesting is that, it showed different policies of how to get at that. And most respondents support rewarding teachers for choosing to make their curriculum transparent. Fewer supported mandating that requirement on educators. So that sort of suggests that Utah voters know it's important. They believe teachers have a key role, but they're also sensitive to how it might impact them in their profession if we mandate it rather than find other ways to kind of get that for parents.
Yeah, I thought that was so fascinating that Utahns in particular get it. that rather than just mandating one more thing on our already overloaded teachers, if we incentivize it or we create a path or a process that works, that's actually going to get us the better result, which is what everybody should be after.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. I mean, in this discussion of curriculum transparency, there's obviously been concern over the workload and the burden on teachers, which is a totally legitimate concern, something that, we need to talk about. And if we fail to get that piece right for teachers, I think we'll fail to get this policy right in general. And so there are some ways, in policy terms or policy speak, carrots versus sticks. And so some teachers will say, hey, I'm already doing this. I'm already trying to be transparent. That's fantastic. So, a possible policy lever is to have stipends for teachers that are willing to go the extra mile and create some sort of online syllabus version of their curriculum that would pay those who are already taking the time to do that. But as you said, it might be an incentive for more teachers to do it as well, which would be a win because curriculum transparency has a number of benefits for all types of stakeholders in education as well.
No question. You had a great piece at Deseret.com last week that a couple of things jumped out to me, and one in particular that I'd love to have you unpack for us a little bit, and that is one of the studies that showed the impact on students, that their confidence, their sense of belonging is impacted by that transparency as well. What did you find out in that space?
Yeah, so it is really interesting to look at how transparency impacts students. And so, and this was in the higher ed space, but when they had access to curriculum prior to the term, they had an increased sense of confidence, sense of belonging, understanding of the skills that were needed for employment. And specifically, you saw larger gains for first generation, low income or underrepresented students. So that's a really key takeaway that, putting more context, more information out there for all types of students really does give them the confidence and the information to do well in their schooling.
Yeah, I think that's so important. Again, that confidence is everything, that sense of belonging and just knowing what's ahead of them, I think it is so important to that. Talk to us a little bit about how we navigate this, obviously in a social media world where, what is in a curriculum or what a child brings home or what a child says, was asked on an assignment can suddenly be fodder for a social media moment or some, big angry rant by somebody. How do we balance all of that in terms of the incentives for teachers to do that without feeling like they're going to be attacked or bombarded, but creating that space so we can have the right conversations to get to the right results?
Yeah, so that's such a key question because the curriculum transparency discussion has really lived in this space of controversies and how do we prevent controversies and we don't want to have teachers that are indoctrinating students and that discussion is valuable and legitimate as well, but there are other reasons that teachers might find it beneficial to be more transparent about what they're teaching. I mean, on the one hand, rather than potentially blindsiding a parent, which always leads to worse scenarios. Being upfront about what you're teaching, give them the opportunity to vet that up front or ask questions. And so there's been some data that showed that's a potential benefit. There's others that say that it helps teachers in their professional development. So if the materials are universally accessible online, other teachers can learn from it. They can collaborate one with another, by just seeing what other teachers are using. And then additionally, it has pushed some teachers to more carefully examine and align activities with their assignments, the assessments, the learning outcomes. So all of that's a win. So if we can sort of create an expectation where curriculum transparency isn't just about smoking out these bad actors, but pushing people towards the best sort of pedagogy or partnership with students and parents, that is what the gold standard would be.
Yeah, I love that. I think that is, we have to keep the focus on the right thing, and I think that is the right thing. Are there any good models out there in your research and your studies, Christine, in terms of states or school districts that are getting this right or are doing some things that are unique, that are leading towards those better outcomes?
It's actually sort of a newer area. So, there's like West Virginia will have an online syllabus type of a requirement for teachers. And I think the issue there is that it's more of a mandate versus sort of an incentive. So this idea is really something that we're playing with in the Utah space. You mentioned earlier that Utahns seem to get this. And I think it's because we live in this policy world where we're able to say, hey, we can do this and this. It doesn't have to be teachers versus parents or, controversies versus these other things. It can be all of it, right? That curriculum transparency has all these benefits. We can work within the system. We can include and bring teachers into this conversation as well. So So really this idea, is something that hopefully we can be a trailblazer on.
Yeah, no question. One more opportunity for the Utah model to be sent out across the country. We like that. Give us one last thing, Christine, that you're keeping your eye on as this kind of develops and becomes hopefully more of a trend and something that gets traction and, again, gets to those results we actually want for our students.
Yeah, I hope that these sorts of research surveys or discussions start to kind of bleed into the conversation that, we stay away from the teachers versus parents rhetoric that is so rampant across the country. I think we can rise above that, do better, and continue to infuse the conversation with these sorts of studies and data that actually show that it has broad impacts for all education stakeholders. And I think we're going to get closer to the right answer if we do that.
No question. Christine Cook Fairbanks, Education Policy Fellow at the Sutherland Institute. Nobody gets this better than Christine. Thanks so much for joining us today. Great piece at Deseret.com, and we'll look forward to having you back soon to continue this and conversation. It's not either or. It's not this versus that. We're all in this together when it comes to educating the future generations. And Christine, thanks for leading these crucial conversations for us.
Thanks so much, Boyd.
All right, again, that's Christine Cook Fairbanks, Education Policy Fellow at the Sutherland Institute. And I love the way Christine goes about her research. It is fact-based, evidence-based, and it's always looking for where do we get to the better result. And so let's get out of all of this us, them. Let's get out of the hyperbolic stuff. Let's get out of the polarization stuff, and let's ask the better questions. And so on this particular issue, when it comes to transparency, there's a good path to that. Where it can give students more confidence, more sense of belonging, more clarity in terms of expectations and what skills they need to develop. It gives parents more confidence in the process. And I think it fosters better communication and understanding between educators and parents. Those are all good things. This doesn't have to be the battle that we often hear about across the country. And as Christine Cook Fairbanks pointed out to us, this is another chance for Utah to actually lead with some good public policy. All right, we'll step aside for some bottom of the hour news. More Inside Sources coming up next on KSL News Radio. Stick around.
.2:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Tammy Kikuchi. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. During Tuesday's press briefing, State Department spokesman Matthew Miller hitting back at claims from Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office that Hamas's most recent rejection of a ceasefire framework agreement resulted from the U.S. abstention vote in the UN Monday.
That response was prepared before the UN Security Council vote, not after it.
More than $1 billion in 2020 tax returns are waiting to be claimed, and the deadline is just over a month away. An IRS report shows there are about 8,000 Utahns who are eligible for one of these returns. To check if you get one, call the IRS helpline number on their website. Your money at this moment, the Dow is down 31 points, S&P down 14, and NASDAQ down 68 points. We'll have a look at weather and traffic together coming up next. KSL News Time, 2:31.
News doesn't just mean information or dates.
It's the story of our local history being told in real time.
Be a part of the story. This is Tim Hughes and Amanda Dixon.
We hope to be a part of your story. We have you covered on KSL News Radio.
At JCW's, we think tipping might be getting a little out of hand. Like when you're asked to tip at the register before you've even been served. Or when you're at the yogurt shop and find yourself serving yourself. And don't even get us started on frosted tips making a comeback. That's why at JCW's, when you pay for a 3rd-pound ranch bacon cheeseburger, that's what you pay. And no one at the register is going to stare longingly at you while you awkwardly maneuver through the tip screen for food you don't even have yet. Honestly, we're just happy to see you at any of our 5 locations in Provo, South Jordan, Lehigh, Harriman, and American Fork. So come on in and enjoy some quality time and great food with family and friends. And we promise, we won't be pushing you for a tip.
Hey, this is Chris with JCW's, and we just want to say thank you, and especially to our loyal customers. We want you to know that at JCW's, your business is all the tip we need. JCW's, quality and a lot of it.
A lot can happen between falling in love with a house online and owning it, between imagining living there and breathing in your new home for the first time. Having an advocate who can help you navigate the complex world of financing, inspections, negotiating, analyzing the market, and talking through any anxieties that may pop up, that can make all the difference. That's what the expertise of a Realtor can do for you. Realtors are members of the National Association of Realtors and bound by a code of ethics, because that's who we are.
Tired of hearing scary radio ads about the IRS? Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000 or $500,000, we have a solution. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS with zero risk to you. If we can't reduce your tax debt, then you pay nothing. We have a 5-star rating on Google and Yelp and an A+ with a BBB. End your tax nightmare today by visiting TRA.com or call 800-583-6681. That's 800-583-6681.
It's gonna be here before you know it.
Here comes the summer, like a wave of change.
Soda Weight Loss wants to help you look amazing in your swimsuit and shorts, but you got to get started right now at sodaweightloss.com. No time? Try Soda's at-home program with all the support you need online.
I didn't realize how unhealthy I was. When you start losing the weight, even that first 5 pounds, this enormous amount of confidence starts to build into you. You start to realize, like, oh, this is possible for me.
That's Lauren, and she let go of 35 pounds with Soda. With their help, I let go of 70 pounds in 5 months. That's because Soda works. It's why they have more than 8,700 Google reviews and countless before and after pictures and videos of people loving their results. Get started now at sodaweightloss.com. That's SOTA weightloss.com. Sodas, say it with me, state of the art.
This Friday, join KSL News Radio and NPS from 10 to 1 as the movie show stops by. Then, browse and uncover what makes NPS so great. With 4 locations, NPS takes a new inventory every day. Then, they check all competitors' retail pricing before marking items down 20 to 70% off. You're invited to visit the movie show this Friday from 10 to 1. And that's the first step to discovering NPS. Visit npsstore.com to begin your own NPS adventure. npsstore.com.
Dino Pay app, save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Ricky Meese.
We do have a crash in Weber County. It's affecting both directions of travel on SR 39 Ogden Canyon. It's about 4 miles east of Ogden, and that's from the mouth of the canyon. Flock to IFA Country Stores from March 25th to March 31st to grow your chicks and chickens with backyard specials on everything. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Showers are going to continue today, but things will dry out tomorrow. Finally, another front arrives on Thursday, though, with clouds and a chance of rain. Right now, it's 46 degrees and mostly cloudy downtown. I'm Tammy Kikuchi from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at KSLNewsRadio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Get deeper insights on the news from inside sources.
Welcome back to Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. It's great to be with you today. As always, I am Boyd Matheson, and always a good day when we get to have our friend Tim Carney on the show with us. He's Senior Fellow at the American Enterprise Institute, where he works on civil society, family, religion in America, and a host of other things. Tim, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. It's always great to be here.
You have a great new book out. It's called Family Unfriendly, How Our Culture Made Raising Kids Much Harder Than It Needs to Be. So kind of give us the backstory on that. What's the baseline?
So the idea is that we have a big rise in childhood anxiety. Parents are more stressed and the birth rate is falling. And the cause of all of these, some people will say it's got to do with economics. Some people will say it has to do with young people being more selfish or something like that. I argue that no, our culture is not sufficiently supportive of families. That our American culture broadly is a bad habitat for raising kids, and it imposes the culture of parenting. Imposes way too many demands on parents, expectations, I should say. Take your kids to a travel team, helicopter over them. The culture of dating and mating is totally broken, whether it's by the apps or something else. And broadly, our cultural values are not aligned with family, which is self-sacrifice, dedicating yourself to another person, and the idea that we should think of ourselves as members in something bigger than ourselves. Those are all the values needed to raise family, and those are in short supply these days.
Yeah, and it definitely is cultural in a lot of that. And I want to unpack several of those things that you mentioned there, starting with this whole idea of the expectation. You alluded to it. The parents feel like they have to have their kid in music lesson and sports and travel teams and, advanced placement, testing, preparation, and all of those kinds of things. I mean, I remember when you'd head out in the morning and, say, we'll be home for dinner. and, it was a bat and
Come
a ball.
home when the streetlights turn on. Yeah. So a lot of things have changed. One is that youth sports, like local rec league, gets replaced by travel sports. People realize they could make money off of this, and they tap into the fact that parents naturally want the best for their kids. So if you're going to put them in baseball, why not put them in the one with the best coaches who are former minor leaguers? And you want your kid to play violin, why not get them the best violin teacher who will tell them, well, you need to come in for lessons twice on the weekend and once in the week. And so all of those things where parents, it's very easy to fall into these traps. I call it the travel team trap, where you easily get fooled into thinking that the purpose of these youth activities is to make them virtuosos or all-stars or D1 scholarships, rather than all the virtues that are built by doing these sort of activities. And then, as you're saying, what the kids are missing out on a lot is independent play, wandering around the neighborhood. In fact, I was almost done writing the book when the American Journal of Pediatrics came out with an article saying the number one cause in rising childhood anxiety is the lack of independent play unsupervised by adults. And the flip side of that is adults could use a break, too, from constantly being expected to helicopter over their kids. And so all of these cultural changes, again, they add to the childhood anxiety, the parental stress, and the falling birth rates.
Yeah, and a lot of that ends up creating this culture that family's just not fun. Like the joy of being a dad, the joy of being a mom, the joy of being part of something bigger than yourself. As you said, we seem to be draining all of that out for these checklists and to-dos and achievements and things that have to be done.
Yeah, like your family's a factory that gets 18 years to try to turn out a straight-A student with a D1 scholarship, and that's not going to be fun. And so games get turned into jobs for little kids. And so a funny finding that some of your listeners might enjoy is that, when you have two kids, the statistics show you're more stressed than with one. And then with three, you're more stressed with two. And then once you have kid number four, you become less stressed. and so on. And kids who grow up with a lot of siblings tend to be happier and report less anxiety, in addition to, only children being more lonely. So what we're seeing is that the sort of formal, structured, everything intentional kind of parenting that our culture points people towards now, that's making everybody less happy. And a little bit more, hey, kids, you're on your own, would make everybody happier. But it cuts against the values of the day so much, where once having kids became this deliberate choice that we postpone, we agonize over, we plan exquisitely, then it sort of became something that we thought we had to micromanage every moment of it. And if we didn't achieve all the milestones at the right point, we were failing at it.
Yeah. And talk to us just for a minute about just kind of the joy from the parenting standpoint, because there is sort of this feeling compounded by social media that, as the parent, if you're trudging, your kids off to those lessons or just doing the daily drill with the kids, that there's no joy in that you got to somehow get away and find, your own peace and have your 5 minutes peace. Talk to us a little bit about that in terms of the way society's breaking that part.
So one part of it that's interesting is the social media. What I spend time studying, what I call the momosphere, the momfluencers online. Almost all of them fell into one of two camps. One was this sort of picture of perfection. I make homemade grilled cheese sandwiches from scratch for my kids from lunch, and everything's perfect. And that's that atmosphere. And look at us, we live on a farm and everything's so casual, yet everything is perfectly posed. And that's intimidating. Yeah. And it's proven that women specifically look at that sort of thing and think, I can't measure up. But the other side is parenting is a nightmare. and that there's a ton of that. And that sinks in on the people who would be parents or would have other kids. And it's social contagion and social comparison are the two things, the ways that sociologists describe it. But it's sort of social media makes us either feel inadequate or makes us feel terrified about parenthood.
Yeah, so true. And give us one last thing before I let you go, Tim. I know it's been a very busy day for you here in the state of Utah. Give us one thing you wish we would be thinking differently about when it comes to raising kids today.
I think the main thing to remember is that raising kids was never meant to be a sort of individualistic undertaking. A lot of us, like me, I know I've always held nuclear family as the most important unit of society, but it's like an internal organ. It requires the others. We need to reach out to other people. We need to ask other parents for help. We need to volunteer. We need to sort of go outside. My wife and I, we sort of use what we call the low-class front porch, where we set chairs up on our front yard just to like get our neighbors to stop by, because the more that we know them and get involved and plugged into them, either through formal connections like a church or just informally like your street, that is the natural setting for family, is embedded in a tightly knit community.
I love that. Tim Carney, Senior Fellow at the American Enterprise Institute, and great book. You're going to want to check this out. Family Unfriendly, how our culture made raising kids much harder than it needs to be. Tim, as always, thanks so much for joining us. We look forward to having you back real soon.
Thanks, Boyd.
That's my conversation with Tim Carney. We'll go ahead and step aside for one last commercial break. We'll come back with some final thoughts on Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Believe it or not, it's time for spring cleaning. Beat the spring cleaning rush with big savings and priority booking today. You're not the only one who's tired of winter this year. Your carpets are too, with Zero-Rez's platinum-rated cleaning systems and environmentally friendly ZR water. They'll extract all that nasty out so your home will look and smell like a home should, with their no residue difference. It's what separates Zero-Rez from the competition. Just check out the 3,300 raving customer reviews online with a 4.8 Google rating and see what the hype is all about. Right now, get one room of carpet cleaning starting at just $25 with a 4-room minimum. And also take 25% off all other services like air ducts, tile, upholstery, and rugs by using promo code CLEANWEEK to celebrate Utah's Cleaning Week. You owe it to yourself and your family to breathe healthy, happy, and clean. Call Zero-Rez right now, 801-288-9376, or go online to zerorez.com and say you want the Clean Week special. Zero-Rez. Spell it backwards or forwards. It's the right way to clean.
Hi, this is Scott Trout of Cordell & Cordell. There are a lot of great dads out there. Sometimes those dads get divorced. For more than 30 years, we have represented men in divorce, confronting the pitfalls that could devastate your finances or harm your family relationships. While every situation is different, our goal is to get the best outcome for you and your kids. Visit CordellCordell.com to take the first step.
Offices in Midvale and Clearfield. 1412 South Legend Hills Drive, Suite 200, Clearfield, Utah, 84015. Online at CordellCordell.com.
Heard the catchphrase that's sweeping the nation?
Jackson Hugh, yeah.
People are saying Jackson Hugh, yeah, to Jackson Hewitt because they love saving money on tax prep. Do you love saving money? Then switch to Jackson Hewitt today and pay less than last year. Thousands of people have already made the switch. Why haven't you? Stop waiting and start filing. You won't get a better deal or a better catchphrase. All together now.
Jackson Hugh, yeah!
Proof of prior year payment required when filing. New clients only at participating locations through April 7th. Terms at jacksonhewitt.com.
When the weather warms up, it's like a stampede, except instead of dust stirred up by hundreds of hooves, it's a cascade of phone calls to Advanced Window Products. This is Jeff Kaplan. Soon as the sun shines and the snow's gone, people want new windows and frames from Utah's #1 custom window maker, and the wait for installation grows longer. But right now, you can get near the front of the line by calling for a quote and get $2,500 off when you purchase 10 windows or more. That's on top of the incredible savings for the highest quality double-pane windows and frames, any style, any color. See, at Advanced Window Products, they actually build the windows here in Utah, they install the windows, and they guarantee them for life. There's no middleman, and they can pass the savings on to you. They even offer buy now, pay later. So get in before the wait grows longer and get the $2,500 off. Get your new windows this spring. Make the call. Advanced Window Products, 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100. Or visit AdvancedWindowsUSA.com.
Transform your old, outdated kitchen with Half Price Granite. For a limited time, Half Price Granite is offering special pricing starting at $25 per square foot installed. That's lower than most big box stores. These prices are some of the lowest around. Granite, quartz, marble, and quartzite, all starting at $25 per square foot installed. Call 801-486-1700 or visit halfpricegranite.com. Half Price Granite, affordable luxury. Looking for a secure retirement plan without market risk? Look no further. Lyle Boss, president of Boss Financial, specializes in no market risk retirement strategies with guarantees of principal, guaranteed growth, and lifelong income. Join Lyle right here each Saturday and Sunday for his Safe Money radio show and call him now at 855-355-SAFE for your complimentary customized Safe Money information kit and Safe Money book. Nothing but upside here at 855-355-SAFE.
Any Hour Services free furnace sale is going on right now. If you haven't scheduled your free estimate yet, do it now. Call Any Hour Services today or schedule online at anyhourservices.com.
Inside Sources with Boyd Matheson.
Our goal every day on Inside Sources is to help you divide the rage from the reason, elevate the conversation, connect the dots, and make the news make sense in your world. We have conversations with great thinkers, with great leaders, and great people who are just out there making a difference in the world. Now, we do talk about politics, but only so we can discuss society and culture. And then we explore society and culture so we can discuss principles and the people in America and the state of Utah who actually live them and apply them every day. We bring the best and brightest minds to the state of Utah, and we love to take the Utah model and send it out to our nation's capital and beyond. Every day on Inside Sources, you'll be part of that conversation. To help you understand things in a different way, we'll get you to think again about what you think you know, but most important, we're going to help you have confidence to have crucial conversations in your community and in your own home.
Join Inside Sources with Boyd Matheson, 1 to 3 on KSL News Radio.
At Social Security, we are always thinking of ways to save you time and make things easier. That's why we created My Social Security. Opening a My Social Security account gives you secure access to your personal record and interactive tools tailored for you. You can see if you are eligible to receive benefits, view spousal benefit estimates, and compare retirement benefit estimates at different ages or dates when you want to start receiving benefits. Already receiving benefits? Use your account to change your address, set up or change direct deposit, get a proof of income letter, and more. In most states, you can also request a replacement Social Security card. Save time. Go online. Open a My Social Security account at ssa.gov/myaccount. Social Security, securing today and tomorrow.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
Victor deployed for the first time to Afghanistan in 2003. At 4 in the morning, my phone rang. They said, "I regret to inform you that your husband was wounded in action." Victor sustained a moderate traumatic brain injury. I was doing school full-time, and I was also then caring for Victor. One of the most important elements of caregiving is taking care of yourself. I just didn't want to forget that I also had goals and that I also had a life. What I did is I challenged Victor to meet me halfway. There are almost 6 million military and veteran caregivers across the nation. We have our own journey, and we can fulfill that journey at the same time that we are helping our loved one.
Visit aarp.org/caregiving for a free military veterans guide to navigate your caregiving journey and better care for your loved one and yourself. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Tammy Kikuchi. First, the search continues for victims from the bridge collapse in Maryland. One body has reportedly been recovered. Second, prosecutors have officially filed several felony charges against Wasatch County Sheriff's Office employee who was arrested at his home this last week. And third, truckers have a chance to come clean if they have altered their emissions control system and get some money to pay for the repair. Right now, it's 45 degrees in downtown Salt Lake City. Back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Hear elevated conversation on crucial issues. Boyd Matheson on Inside Sources.
Welcome back to Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. It's great to be with you today. As always, I am Boyd Matheson, and as we come down the home stretch of the program today, I thought it was interesting. I still don't know a whole lot about Nicole Shanahan, who was announced as the vice presidential running mate today for Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and his independent bid for the presidency. Other than she is a tech lawyer, she has done a lot. She has a foundation focused on reproductive rights, criminal justice, and the environment. She has a lot of money, and that's obviously part of the campaign strategy in terms of moving forward. She invested about $4 million in the Super Bowl ad that ran promoting Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s candidacy. But I want to get to an interesting component to all of this. And that is when Robert F. Kennedy Jr. introduced her as his running mate, he gave an interesting description that I thought, wow, that's a pretty interesting way to lead into someone you're nominating to be vice president of the United States. But he started with what he called her gift of curiosity. And we need a lot more of that out of our public officials. So many are so set in their ways, are so certain that they know the answer or have the perfect response to everything, that they stop being curious. And I think it's one of the real challenges in the country today is if we're no longer curious as to, well, I wonder why she thinks that's good policy, or I wonder why he thinks that approach will actually help solve that particular problem. When we lose that sense of wonder and curiosity, that's where a lot of the contempt begins to take root. Because then you can start saying, if you don't care, if you're not interested, if you're not curious as to why someone might believe a certain thing, then it's much easier to just start picking it apart. And remember, opposition is undemanding. Deconstructing is absolutely undisciplined and requires nothing. It's easy, especially on social media today. The other thing that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. said in describing his vice presidential running mate was that she had confidence, not arrogance, but she had the confidence to change. Also an interesting descriptor for someone seeking high office. It's one I wish we had more of in our nation's capital and in state houses and in local governments all around the country. The confidence to change. We have created such an adversarial relationship that nobody can ever admit to being wrong. I made a mistake. And it goes all the way down to our individual relationships, that if we can never admit that we're wrong or that we are vulnerable or that we have weaknesses or that we just flat out missed it, it's impossible to change. It's impossible to have productive, forward-moving conversations because you're just hunkered down in this defensive crouch defending all the time. And when you're in a defensive crouch all the time, the only way you can get out of it is to start swinging at your opponent. And that's not helpful when it comes to solving problems. Again, it is wonderful for social media. It is great for raising campaign cash. It does nothing to solve real problems in the real world. And so I do love the fact that those were the first things that Robert F. Kennedy Jr.